there, comic book fans, I'm John Anderson, and I just rewatched Daredevil Season 2, Episodes 1 through 4, and to be honest, these are probably my favorite episodes of the season. Now, before we go any further, keep in mind I'm going to be going through key plot points from the episodes, so if you haven't seen it yet, check out my spoiler-free review that I posted a little while back. I'll leave a link right here or in the description below. With that being said, let's get into it. In my previous review, I mentioned that there's a lot of characters reprising their roles from Season 1 and a lot of new characters, so I wanted to start by pointing out some of those reprising characters and new ones. First, we have Turk Barrett, who is a low-level criminal who's always causing trouble for Daredevil, not only in the series but in the comics. Next, we have Melvin Potter, aka Gladiator, who is a supervillain in the comics but has a change of heart and becomes an ally to Daredevil, as he is in the series, and he's kind of like his costume designer and gives him upgrades and new toys as the season progresses. We have Claire Temple, aka Night Nurse, who had a very prominent role in Season 1, and she has a scene with Foggy because he's trying to find Matt, who's been missing for a while, and since he's a mutual friend of theirs, he assumes that she'll be able to help him, or maybe he's seen him. And she also gives a nod to the Jessica Jones series, referencing Luke Cage when she helped him at the end of that season. So that was a cool little Easter egg. And finally, we get Father Lamont, who we see giving a sermon for one of Nelson Murdoch's clients, and has always been a source of guidance for Matt. In terms of new characters, we have Grotto, who's a low-level thug for the Irish mob, who's involved in the Irish massacre, which is presumably caused by the Punisher, who... We'll get into the Punisher, don't worry about it. There's a lot of things I have to say about him. Next, we have D.A. Reyes, who's a foil for Nelson and Murdoch, and might have a little more up her sleeve than we're aware of. And finally, we're introduced to Finn, who's the leader of the Irish mob, who has a lot to say to Punisher. Now I want to get into some plot points from these episodes, so if I get off topic or go out of order in the episodes, forgive me. So first we get hints of Matt Murdock and Karen Page relationship, which is handled very organically, doesn't feel forced at all, and we get a very nice climactic kiss in the rain, which is very dramatic and a good sign of things to come from that relationship. Next, I really like how they make an effort to show how Daredevil uses his senses, like when he hears things and that provides them with information that they normally wouldn't get. We see a reprisal of the heartbeat to tell if somebody's lying or telling the truth, which is very helpful in court, as we'll see in later episodes. And I like how he uses his sense of smell to track the dog from the Irish massacre to find Punisher's hideout. I think it's done pretty well, but there are times that it doesn't really make sense that he would see something or he would sense something without any indication, which is hard because, you know, you are writing for comic books and you gotta let some leniency here and there. Now, in the first two episodes, we get two great fights between Daredevil and Punisher, and it's easy to see that they're very evenly matched, and the end of the first fight is very dramatic, and it's very apparent that the first line for the Punisher is bang as he shoots Daredevil in the head. And I think that's just a great way to end the first episode and a great way to get us excited for the rest of the season. The next day, Foggy finds Matt on a rooftop where he was shot by the Punisher. And I think it's a little convenient that Foggy's able to get Matt in a Daredevil costume back to his apartment in broad daylight. And being from New York, I think that somebody would have saw them. I know we have no indication of how far he was from his apartment, but I would have liked that being like the roof of his apartment maybe. That would have been a better alternative than just him getting from wherever he was back to his apartment. Next, they introduce the idea that Matt loses his hearing, and I really like that because that's so debilitating for a man that can't see. To also not hear is just trouble and conflict and something that he has to figure out. But I didn't really like how it kind of comes and goes. They don't really explain it or why it comes and why it goes, and we only see it in this episode. I think that was something that they totally could have utilized more. We also get a reference to Punisher lore with this idea of a war zone, clearly referencing the film and the comics, when D.A. Reyes is using Grotto as bait for the Punisher and chaos ensues. And that leads to our second confrontation between Daredevil and Punisher, which leads to Matt getting captured, tied up by Frank Castle. And this is definitely one of my favorite scenes from the season as a whole, because you have these two vigilantes who have two different ideologies, and they're debating with each other, and you're just on the edge of your seat, and after it's all over, neither one of them changes their opinion on killing people. And that's fascinating. It speaks to the strength of both characters. I also like how Punisher doesn't feel the need to take off Daredevil's mask, that he doesn't really need to know who he is, but I think that shows more of a level of respect for Frank Castle. And this leads to the impossible decision that Daredevil has to make when Punisher points a gun at Grotto and says, either you're going to shoot me or I'm going to kill Grotto right in front of you. And we've seen that a lot, especially in Man of Steel, where Grodd's going to be strangled to death or he's going to kill a family. It's the same situation, but of course Daredevil finds a way not to kill Punisher, but Punisher ends up killing Grotto. Now during this time, Punisher provokes the Dogs of Hell, and they're on the way to the rooftop to kill Punisher and Daredevil, and that leads to the stairwell scene, which rivals the hallway scene from season 1, and it definitely ups the ante with this idea of the camera going through the stairwell in one shot. That's astounding. I don't really know how they did it. I'm assuming they use techniques that you see in films like Birdman, where they hide the cuts unbeknownst to us. Also during this time, you have Karen investigating the Punisher case because she thinks that there's more to this Punisher character than the media is leading on. And she also goes to Frank Castle's house, and you see that he was a family man and a military hero, all things that the media chose to leave out. Then we have the Punisher getting captured by the Irish mob at the carousel at Central Park, which is the same spot his family was murdered, which is very ironic. But obviously the Punisher puts up a fight, and even when he's getting interrogated and brutally tortured, he still has a fighting spirit, even going as far as taking a drill to the foot. I like how it doesn't matter how much they're beating him. The only thing that's going to break Frank Castle is the fact that they're going to hurt his dog. And I like that he's a dog lover. It definitely adds some humanity to this very brutal character. So Daredevil manages to save Frank, and we have a nice moment similar to that in The Dark Knight Rises, where Batman shoos the gun away from Catwoman saying, "No guns, no killing," and it's basically the same scene. We also get another reference to The Dark Knight where Punisher is getting arrested, and Daredevil makes a point to the cops saying that you have to arrest him, not me, there's got to be justice. Very similar to how Batman took the fall for Harvey Dent's death at the end of The Dark Knight, which really speaks to the idea that this could have been a long 4-hour Punisher movie. Obviously, you could cut stuff out, but I really like the idea that this arc kind of ends on that same note, and I would have watched a full-length movie dedicated to the Punisher. And that really speaks to the performance of Jon Bernthal as the Punisher. He brings such depth to the character, especially in his monologue when they're waiting for the cops to arrive, because Punisher can't really walk because he took a drill to the foot. And he's just telling Daredevil about one batch, two batch, penny and dime, and the meaning behind that. And you could have very easily cut to flashbacks or played the music up, but they really let his performance shine, and it's really heartbreaking. And I literally teared up when I was watching it. It's so engaging, and it's definitely a highlight from the series. And finally, I really like how episode 4 ends with the introduction of Elektra. And we learn so much about her in just those brief moments that we see her. We see that she's stealthy and definitely has some sort of history with Matt, and it will definitely unfold as the season progresses. So that's my thoughts on episodes 1 through 4. If you guys like this video, be sure to share and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook at John Ryan Anderson, or on Instagram and Twitter at The Comic Look. And remember guys, as always, comics do deserve a second look.